Hello friends, Arthur Woods here, the resident artist of Greater.Earth, and this is Communication 16015. Thank you for joining me. Behind me you see our space plane, which will soon be taking me to the Greater.Earth space station. Here we still have some final checks to carry out, and we do need to wait for the perfect launch window. Well, I hope you will agree that up in orbit, we have a really super space drone out there that is sending us these fantastic images. And this drone will also record my rendezvous on the space plane when it arrives at the space station. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this will take place very soon and that my launch goes well. Well, in the meantime, the Geopolitical Observatory is performing without problem, and it is truly amazing to see what types of information it is gathering. As you will see, we have optimized the Geopolitical Observatory page on our website where the data stream is being published in order to make it easier for you to research the information. Now, when a new topic is picked up by the Geopolitical Observatory, it will generate its own page. And you can easily access these individual topics by clicking on the appropriate button. Of course, the data stream is always totally searchable. Yeah, I find this pretty cool, don't you? Anyway, the Geopolitical Observatory is also providing some statistical information which I find very interesting and useful. After only a bit more than 2 weeks of operation, we have already almost 100 items in the data stream. Now, if we combine the topics of war and geopolitics that we've received in these past few weeks, you will see that we've received about 31 items in these two categories. Now, at the same time span, we have received approximately 27 items in the space category. It looks like a space race. Well, it's a close race in any account. However, as about 30% of the information that the Geopolitical Observatory has picked up has to do with space, for this communication I would like to focus on developments in Greater.Earth, which, in addition to the Asgardia news that I mentioned in the previous communication, space had a very busy week. However, speaking of Asgardia, the website is now reporting that over 470,000 Asgardians have signed up. Also, in the past few days, our Geopolitical Observatory has picked up a few more analytical reports about the project, which you can find in the data stream in the space category. Well, one not so great item is that the Asgardian website has reported that they experienced a massive cyber attack, and this after only being online for about a week. Well, this is quite interesting considering the state of the world. Why would this website, or rather this idea, be a target of such an attack? Well, I will come back to the Asgardia project in a future communication as this project deserves much more of our attention. Speaking of cyber attacks, in addition to the Russians being accused of hacking the U.S. political process, cyber attacks were also launched on a number of U.S. websites this week, including Twitter, Netflix, Spotify, and the New York Times. Well, let's get back to space. On the unmanned side, there was the successful launch of Orbital's Antares rocket, which after 2 years returns to spaceflight with a beautiful night launch from Wallops Island, carrying a cargo to the International Space Station. Unfortunately, it looks like the landing of the European Space Agency's Schiaparelli probe to Mars did not go well. The probe's mission was to search for life on the planet as a part of ESA's ExoMars program. And it's a real pity if this mission has failed, and we will now have to wait even longer for such information. Well, we know that space is surely not an easy environment to master. Concerning human spaceflight, we had two very important developments this past week. First, a Chinese Long March rocket boosted two astronauts, or taikonauts as they are called in China, into Earth orbit for a planned month-long stay aboard the Tiangong-2 space station module. Tiangong, I guess that's how you say it, is translated as Heavenly Palace. I like that. This is China's sixth and longest piloted spaceflight to date. And then from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, there was the successful launch of two Russian cosmonauts and one U.S. astronaut to the International Space Station. Well, what is very remarkable about this is the fact that when it comes to space, the United States, the Europeans, and Russia have found a way to continue their cooperation in their space activities. And I believe this tells us something very important. With all of the nasty rhetoric that we're seeing in the news today and the sanctions against Russia, one would assume that this cooperation in space would be jeopardized and the Americans and the Europeans would be grounded. Well, fortunately, this hasn't happened. But unfortunately, this aspect is hardly mentioned in the mainstream media outside of the space media. Well, we should all learn from this cooperation effect that space has had on the way we work together and use this to build our future upon it. Now let's look at the recent launch and docking from Baikonur. It's very beautiful, that went to the International Space Station, which took place on Wednesday, October 19th.
Issued for ignition. Second umbilical tower separates.
The second umbilical tower has retracted. You can see the engines firing now, going up to flight speed and liftoff. Shane Kimbrough, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Andrei Borisenko blasting off from Kazakhstan, making their way towards the International Space Station. Getting good calls from the team down in Baikonur, everything looking nominal or normal throughout the flight so far. The first stage of the Soyuz delivering 930,000 pounds of thrust from those four strap-on boosters and single core engine.
Now passing over Russian ground stations, over Romania. Again, a great view of the Soyuz MSO-2 spacecraft closing in just about 35 meters away from its docking to the Poist module to complete a two-day journey from the launch pad at Baikonur and to restore the space station to a six-person complement. Just underneath the docking port, you can see that diamond-shaped mechanism. That is the docking target, to which the automated rendezvous system will align the crosshairs just a few moments from now. Again, no issues. The Soyuz being guided in automatically at this point for its docking. Just 22 meters separating Soyuz and the International Space Station.
The center of the target is lower and to the left of one square, and we have a slight deviation in yaw.
We have contact, docking confirmed and capture confirmed at 4:52 a.m. Central Time as the International Space Station and Soyuz MSO-2 flew 251 statute miles.
As a comparison, in case you missed it, here is a video of the launch and docking of our supply vehicle to the Greater.Earth space station just a few weeks ago.
Ignition, 2, 1, and liftoff.
might enjoy seeing these videos, and I hope that you will agree with me that our alternative space program is really pretty advanced. Actually, today, the only way for humans to get to and from the International Space Station is on a Russian rocket. I guess if my launch to the Greater.Earth space station goes well, then maybe NASA and maybe ESA will give us a call. Too bad for them, however, as at the moment we have no capacity and actually no plans to offer our services to governments. Private organizations? Yes, please give us a call. Okay, folks, if you go to the overview section of the Greater.Earth website and click on the link to Voices, you will find a list of insightful quotes, including the one by Frank White, which I mentioned in my last communication. I would like to share another quote with you today. This one is by author Robert A. Heinlein. He writes, "In the universe, space travel may be the normal birth pangs of an otherwise dying race, a test. Some races pass, some fail." And folks, that pretty much sums up my thoughts when I mentioned in my last communication that humanity is facing its test, a test which I call the cosmic choice. It appears that we now find ourselves in a period of great uncertainty and turmoil, not only between nations and cultures, but also internally, inside countries and in societies. Just look at what is happening in American and European politics. I believe this has to do with us, consciously or unconsciously, having to make this cosmic choice at this precise moment in our history. And if we are lucky and smart, it will lead to a positive transformation that will benefit all humanity. And as the one area of human activity that seems to work in a cooperative framework is in the region just above our atmosphere, up here in the region of Greater.Earth, wouldn't it have been refreshing if the two candidates for the U.S. presidency had a debate about space policy instead of sex, lies, corruption, you name it? Here is my space plane again, coming to pick me up. I hope you will come with me when I get on it. You know, we won't be leaving Earth. We will be exploring a new part of it, as we've done throughout our history. Friends, this has been Communication 16015. Thank you for watching. Arthur Woods here. Goodbye for now.